and that DJ stands for disc jockey.
Hi everyone, DJ Ravine here.
And Ben Bristow.
And we are here socially distanced. We're going to be talking to you today about Mixing in Key, Mixed in Key, the software. They've just released version 10.
Just some tips and tricks really on how you can mix in key and use this software in conjunction with Rekordbox or whatever DVS system you might be using.
Do you mix in key most of the time?
I try to. I don't let it kind of rule what I play. If I know that I want to play a tune and it's not necessarily in the right key, it wouldn't prevent me playing it next. But obviously when I'm doing mixtapes and things, it's really a good thing to do because it makes the whole thing sound more cohesive, and you don't want to be playing tunes over each other that are completely out of key because it's probably going to sound a bit jarring and dissonant. Personally, I tend to go by what I hear, whether it's sounding good or not. Obviously, sometimes even if two tunes are not in key, the dissonance might make it a good mix because of the sort of clash of those two keys. For whatever reason, it gives it an edge.
Mixing Key 10, what new things do they bring to the table?
It's added the feature of adding cue points to Rekordbox tracks, so that your Rekordbox database can have cue points added. They've changed the look of it very slightly, but I mean, it's not massively different to previous versions. It's got the key features which are, or key being the operative word, it analyzes and detects the key of your tracks. Obviously, it adds either an alphanumerical key code or the actual musical key name. It also gives you an energy level rating, so it's kind of meant to give you an idea of how energetic or dynamic your tracks are. So it's like a 1 to 10 kind of energy level rating.
One thing with Mixed in Key is that obviously it uses the Camelot wheel.
Yeah.
And that makes it really easy for DJs to mix in key because obviously you don't need to actually know the circle of fifths. And it's kind of translated the circle of fifths into a alphanumerical system. And the gist of it is it's 1 through to 12, and it could be, and there's an A and a B version of all those numbers. If you mix a song that is, say, 3A, you can mix it into songs that are 2A or 4A or 3A into 3B. So if your number has an A, you can mix it into the B version, or you can mix it into one step up or one step down.
Yeah, in theory, that's the kind of guidelines. But the principle of it is obviously it's like the first and the fifth note in a scale are generally harmonically compatible with each other. But obviously full tracks aren't as simple as just playing a single note. So it's not always going to sound at every point in each track perfect over each other. It's just a kind of guideline really. But the kind of A and the B equivalent to each other, if it's the same number but the A or the B, one is the relative minor key of the relative major key. So they're kind of more closely related, if you like. Obviously they're playing the same set of notes. So in a way they're even closer a match than if you were to go from 1A to 2A, for example.
Well, let's load up some tracks and see what we can come up with.
So before I do that, what I probably want to do is kind of just double check the preferences in terms of where it's going to add the key codes and everything. Because if you start adding the key code to the start of the track name, for example, and you rename all your tracks, or it could sort of mess up your Rekordbox database.
So your song name would now be 12A, Martin Garrix's Animals.
So if you go to personalize, then you've got basically this update tags section. So this is where is it going to write this information. You can choose how it's going to kind of show you those key codes. So you could ask it to only show you the energy level, for example, if you weren't interested in the key codes, or if you wanted to write the key and the energy level, you could have it there. And then it asks you where do you want to write it. If you add it to the start of the artist name, you might have problems when you're searching for tracks. So if anything, I might add it at the end of the track name. But personally, I would have mine either in the comments field or in the actual key tag of that file. So
that's how I normally do it. I just get it to put it into the key tag because I use CDJs, and you can have on your playlist a secondary column which just shows the keys, and you can also sort by the key as well.
Yeah, so I'd basically come off personalize and go to collection. I can drag and drop some tunes in, and then it will analyze them. Processing, and you should start seeing the cue points and key result. Now this is a new section here, so it's added cue points, or at least it did do that before, but now it can do that for Rekordbox as well. But obviously you can ask it not to analyze for cue points. So you can see here I've got a 12A, an 11A, a 1A, a 1A, and a 5B. So I can click on these top menus as with any software generally and order it according to key. So obviously 2 tracks in this small selection are in 1A, so they would potentially be a good match for each other because they're in the same key apparently. I could potentially go from this track to the one after it because then I've got an 11A, so that's going clockwise around the Camelot wheel.
I haven't used mixed in key for quite a long time, probably since like version 5, and now we're in version 10, okay? So I don't remember this automatic cue point feature. What does that actually do?
Well, it just kind of puts cue points where it thinks you might want them. So generally at the start of a drop or at the start of a breakdown. Sometimes they're a bit random and you might not want them, but you can see here like cue point 6 looks like it's on the final sort of drop because there's a little gap before it and then there's a cue point. But obviously be careful because if you've already spent lots of time in Rekordbox putting cue points on all your tracks, you don't want mixed in key to then overwrite those and when you do that export process. So it might be that if you're just analysing tracks for the first time, you might as well let mixed in key find the cue points for you because at least you've got something to start from. You can either delete them or use them.
And then when you go into Rekordbox, you can just see them right here. So if we got mixed in key tunes,
yeah,
that was the first track, and it shows them right there.
Yeah, they give you a good starting point, as we said.
But yeah, you can just delete them with the X's if you don't want them. Let's just get rid of all of them.
Yeah.
But they still show as memory points, as you can see here. So you can it exports them as both memory points and also as hot cues.
Yeah.
So memory points are when you use the left and right buttons on a CDJ, it will change your actual cue button to that cue point.
Obviously, the process of exporting the cue points to your Rekordbox database from the mixed in key is slightly involved, so it's worth getting familiar with how that works because it involves exporting a database.
Yeah, but you do it the first time and it's all fine and it'll be pretty straightforward. I think it's a great feature actually because I personally always say, all right, I'm going to go through my new tracks, right? And I'm going to put a cue point where the drop starts, 8 bars before the breakdown and all that kind of stuff. But I never end up doing it. So this is actually a great way to just get a good starting point to how you want to prepare your tracks for when you go and play out.
Yeah. And yeah, you can do it with an existing database as well. So you could get Mixed in Key to scan your entire database and add cue points to those tracks, even if they've already been put through Rekordbox. So that's quite cool.
And with this version, they've actually improved their algorithm when it comes to key detection. You know, it's not always going to be correct, but it is constantly being improved. And now they're using stuff like machine learning and data analysis to make sure you get the most accurate keys.
And obviously some tracks are in multiple keys. They're not all in the same key all the way through. So then with things like that, it might struggle. The mantra I normally go by is trust your ears. If your ears are saying it sounds cool and it's a good combination of 2 tracks, it's a valid mix to do because probably other people are going to think the same thing. You shouldn't just be ruled solely by the fact that, oh, it's not in key, therefore I can't mix these 2 tracks together. It might be you don't know what order to play your tunes in for a recorded set, for example. So you choose the tracks you're going to use, scan them with this. This might tell you the order that you could play that set in. Yeah. And this is the most accurate.
Yeah.
This in all every year there's a new article or someone has done an analysis where they analyse tracks with all the different platforms, and mixed in key always comes out as the top result, I think.
I think it's worth the money. If you're a DJ that makes a living from DJing especially, this is software that can really help you out and also save you a lot of time.
Yeah, and it's just a guideline. It's another thing, along with BPM, along with the energy level, along with the key, you can just use this to sort of point you in the right direction if you're stuck for ideas. That's another way you can look at it.
But yeah, that was just a little bit about mixing in key and mixed in key 10. If you want to find out more about mixed in key 10, check out the links down below. And if you want to find out more about our courses, check out pointblankmusicschool.com. Any last words from you?
Thank you for watching.
Take it easy.